So we're here at USA MedBed and we're looking at the difference between a P1900 TotalCare Sport 2 on the right and the Hill Rom P7500 Progressa bed on the left, which is the newer version of the Hill Rom TotalCare Sport 2. And for people out there that don't know these beds very well, if you look at both these beds, they almost look identical. Like the mattress covers are almost the same. If you come over here and look off to the right-hand side, you're going to see the rail design is very similar. But there's a lot of differences with this bed. Now, this bed has Band-Aids on it, which I will call Band-Aids, because it needs work done on it. And so our Hill Rom technician will be here. We'll get that bed recertified. You can see it's what we call red tagged, meaning that there's problems with that bed and it's going to have to be fixed, whereas the Progressa over here is green tagged. It's been professionally serviced. It's ready to go out the door. The main differences between these two beds, now from a functionality standpoint, they do exactly the same thing. So both these beds have a percussion vibration, which is a pulmonary feature. Patients with COPD, people that have lung issues, it's used a lot. These beds are used a lot for ALS, MS, quadriplegic, paraplegic, people that need basically a high level of patient care. Now, back in the day, there was a Sport 1. The Sport 1 came out ballpark around 2004, 2005. And then in about 2007 or 8, they came out with the Sport 2, which basically was a touchscreen interface. I believe we actually unplugged this one on the right. But basically, it was a touchscreen feature, very easy to use. They called them a Sport 2 for a while because you had a computer screen on both sides you could use it with. But the Hill Rom TotalCare bed was a bed that was made with hydraulics. And so with those hydraulics, they created a lot of service issues. Now, if you really needed the bed and you're in a hospital, it's all well and good. But Hill Rom basically discontinued their home care division, so they no longer will service these hospital beds. Now, the Progressa, what they did in 2015 is they re-engineered the sport bed and made the Progressa. And I guess the goal of the video is really two things. Number one, to show you that they're basically the same bed, but also to explain what the differences of each one of the beds are. And from a feature standpoint, from a look standpoint, they're almost identical. But the big thing that they did when they made the Progressa, they got rid of all of the hydraulics. So every one of the beds in this showroom, well, those are more sport beds down the far end, but all the beds here in the row and most beds sold are actually 100% electric. So when they re-engineered the Progressa bed, they got rid of all the hydraulics. So if you're in the marketplace and you're looking to buy a TotalCare Sport 2, I'm just going to tell you straight out, I don't like the bed personally. It causes a lot of problems, a lot of service issues. Hill Rom, of course, now doesn't like to repair and fix their own equipment. So if you're in a house or a home, you're not going to get much help from them. Parts are still pretty much available, probably always will be, but I just don't like it because it's problematic. Now, if you have COPD, if you have situations where you've got to have one of these beds, the sport bed is going to obviously be less expensive because it's been out for, the better part of 20 years. Most of these Sport 2 beds that are out there, they stopped making them in 2016. So here in 2024, these beds are a minimum of 8 to 10 years old. Some of them older because they started making them in 2008. And it's just an older bed. It's going to have more chances of having service issues. Do they all have service issues? No, they do not. But when you sell beds by the thousands and you carry every bed model out there, you kind of know who the problem child is and who the ones are that are the most dependable. And there's a huge difference between a TotalCare Sport 2 and a Progressa. And many times people will say, hey, you know what? I don't have the money for the Progressa bed. I get it. These beds are expensive. People that need these beds already probably have enough medical bills and other stuff going on. It's hard to work with insurance companies. But, the bottom line is nowadays with Hill Rom, they don't sell to home care. So if you really need high-end quality hospital beds, you're going to have to go through a secondary provider. That's really, honestly, the only reason I sell these beds is because we have certified Hill Rom technicians. Most of them are former Hill Rom employees that worked for Hill Rom, and for whatever reason decide to go on their own and, are still very well trained at how to work on these. But the Hill Rom Progressa bed and the Hill Rom TotalCare Sport, we can provide service, phone support. Usually parts are still available. Those you can get through various places, Part Source being one of them. But with the Hill Rom TotalCare Sport 2, in many cases, you're one service issue away from just buying a Progressa. You've got a hydraulic block in this bed that if that goes bad, that can get into the thousands. Stepper motors and valves and just a whole host of things that, have a tendency to require service, and not always real expensive, but just somewhat ongoing. And, many times we have to fly staff out to locations to get to the beds because there's not an adequate number of technicians that are available in certain parts of the country. However, we are available to do that. And in some cases, depending on where you're at, there are technicians available. Now, the Hill Rom Progressa bed, like I said, is much more reliable. It's the same bed, but without the hydraulics, you really have maybe a blower, the control board, and, most of the parts on that bed are going to be less expensive, much less likely to have issues. I mean, very rarely do we get calls for Progressa beds having problems. But that's basically what you're looking at when you're dealing with these two beds. What are the difference? Unless you basically have, somebody kind of outlining it for you, they look the same. They do the same thing. The funny thing is for most videos, of course, I don't want to bring a broken bed into the showroom, but I'm putting this bed out there because my goal is to educate people on these beds and help them make the best decision. I do want to let you know, though, if you do buy a sport bed, it will be professionally recertified. Basically, with these beds, we replace the batteries, go through and recalibrate them. They go through a full service over diagnostic. The filters on these things all need to be either cleaned or changed. That's all done. So it's a professional service that goes through just like it would be done at a hospital. And they're ready to go back into a hospital. Many times they're going to go into people's homes. But if you say, hey, I just don't have the money for a Progressa and you're getting the sport, I do want to let you know that we will have the bed ready to go. And we do have a fairly large network around the country. After 15 years of doing this, we have a pretty large network around the country of technicians that are available that can service and work on the bed. But when you're buying that bed, you want that figured out before it gets to your house. You do not want to get that bed and then have a service issue and figure out later, oh, I need to figure out how we're going to get that fixed, because getting parts, not a problem. Phone tech support, not a problem. If you're handy with stuff over the phone and you can do a FaceTime call and we can show you how to fix stuff, not a problem. And in some cases, we can find people that are handy, that can do that. But this is a good time right now to address these beds. I sell a lot of beds. I'm not always on these videos, chanting and saying how great they are. I mean, they're good beds. Don't get me wrong. They're hospital grade beds, but I do know the ones that cause the most service calls. I know the ones that are most reliable. I'm usually, going to be pretty forthcoming. If you come to me looking for a sport bed, yes, I will sell it. Yes, we do carry them. And yes, we do professionally recertify them and have them ready to go. But I am going to tell you that, hey, depending on where you're at, we need to make sure we've got technicians available. And like I said, we've got most of the country covered. So most places you get the bed and get it, you're fine. We can get somebody out there if there is an issue. And I'm not saying every bed has an issue. I'm not saying they always have issues. I'm just saying of all the beds that I sell, this one right here basically requires the most service. So with that being said, you might not always need that bed because I can outfit and equip other beds. Like you can see over here, we've got the P3200 VersaCare. We have Care Assist beds. This is a Dolphin mattress. We have other bed systems. We have other bed options. It's not always going to have to be that exact same bed, but there's certain things that these beds do, like sitting in this chair position that they're in right now, that other beds don't. Like you can see the VersaCare right next to it. Is it in a chair? Yes, but are your feet touching the ground and you can get out of bed that way? No. So they're minor differences. You figure out, what's going to serve you best, what's in your best interest. And that's one thing about talking to us. We've been doing this 15 years. We put our hands on these beds every single day. We sell beds by the thousands, literally. In addition to what we sell here domestically, And just the last month, we've shipped over 300 beds into Latin America, Mexico. We send beds into Africa. So we do beds on a very large scale. And, you know, by dealing with beds on a day-to-day basis, you get to know them pretty well. Obviously, working with some of the best technicians on the planet, you get a lot of feedback from them. So we obviously know, you know, you can pretty much pick any bed, and I'll tell you what the number 1, 2, and 3 things that are probably going to go wrong with it, how much it's normally going to cost ballpark. And, you know, but we pass that on to you. It's hard sometimes if somebody's getting out of the hospital and you're trying to figure out what bed they need, and you've got 48 hours to figure it out, you know, and these aren't all the beds we sell. We do sell other beds that are probably more for home care. These are going to be, you know, really for really extreme cases, not always needed. We sell a lot of beds, just full electric beds that sit into a chair that have foam mattresses too. So for more information, give us a call. USA MedBed, Hospital Direct Medical. We're in Richmond, Virginia and San Diego, California. You can reach us at our Virginia location, 804-495-0770 or 540-327-7376, and San Diego, California, 858-263-4894. 2 different websites. The number one, hospitalbeds.com, which is ideal for getting a lot of information, a lot more videos, and then hospitalbedshop.com. And either one of those you can go to get more information. So for more information, give us a call, visit our website. Thanks for watching our video. Subscribe and share, and we keep putting out more information on beds and all other types of medical equipment.